As you know, like all the tenants here, they hate us.
Yeah.
They hate landlords.
Yeah.
For sure. And like anytime you put, it's like the most controversial topic ever.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as you sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
Welcome everybody. Today is another episode of Broadview Table Talks where today's topic is we're going to be talking about why are rental prices dropping, and as well as how does that affect our investors or landlords. Because based on your last video over here, rising mortgage interest costs, sell or continue renting, I feel like is a big topic nowadays.
It's tough situation to be in though, right? Because falling real estate prices because of high interest costs, right?
Yeah.
And things are getting really expensive to own, to carry. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't help that the rental rates are going down too, right?
I know.
So it's like, on one hand, it doesn't make sense to sell because prices have dropped. And on the other hand, it doesn't make sense to carry it or to continue to rent it out because the carrying cost has gone up and the rental rate doesn't cover it. And then on the third hand, which is part of this one, also the rental rate has dropped as well too. So I'm looking at rentals.ca on a month-over-month basis in the city of Toronto for one bedroom. It's actually down not too much, down by 0.3%. So the one bedrooms are still $2,600, just a bit over $2,600. And then you have two bedrooms that are actually higher, 0.4% higher at $3,400, just over $3,400. Year over year, it's at anywhere from close to 2%, call it, up, which is not that bad compared to what we saw before, which is like year over year, 10%, 20%, right? So it's kind of tapering off a little bit. And I would think that most people want two bedrooms because it's the only way to, be affordable, right? Have a roommate, right? At $3,400 for a two bedroom, you share the kitchen, you might have your own bathrooms, but that's what, $1,600 each?
Yeah, 16 to 17. It makes it way more affordable than paying the 26 having your own place.
1,700, yeah, I should say. Yeah, so versus 2,600, so that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's a perfect segue into the first thing here. Why are rental prices dropping? I mean, the stats that you showed us, it really doesn't show much, but like the eye test and being in the fields, it feels like a lot of stuff are kind of staying on the market, being a little bit more stale. And I've seen the rental prices personally drop quite a bit for one bedrooms in the waterfront downtown area.
So for a bit of context, we do like 100 and something leases a year?
Yes.
As a team?
Yeah.
So that's a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, that's like 10 leases a month at least, minimum, for the landlord side. So I know right now we're carrying inventory of 13 leases or so, 13 properties. So it's enough to kind of get a pulse in the market, but not to be representative of the entire market, obviously. So it is still anecdotal advice. It's still like our experience, but you're right. I mean, I am noticing a drop in rental prices since September. And I have a feeling, like I don't exactly know, but it's because people aren't able to, so they're faced with that same dilemma, right? Their tenants, if it's a rental property, tenants have moved out, and if they sell, they're going to sell at a loss or potentially at a huge discount from where the prices were in the past at the peak. Yeah. So they don't want to sell it, so they'll just put it on the market. So I feel like the rental market's been flooded with a lot more inventory. And I just feel like a lot of people aren't making moves. They're staying where they're at just because the cost of a move is so expensive, right? By the time you factor in moving costs for, I don't know, $1,000 to $5,000, storage space, first and last month you got to come up with again, any key deposits or whatever, right? And potentially overlap in rent, paying rent twice, right? So the cost to move from one rental to another is pretty expensive.
Yeah. So I think the biggest part being like basic economics. There's just so many. But okay, so you said that one point that everybody is flooding the market with a bunch of leases, right? Just because they're in the mix of either selling or renting out, so there's a lot more listings there.
Well, actually, you know what? I can't really say that for sure. I have to actually look at the numbers to see how many rental listings are compared to where they were at this time last year.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like the days on market for a lot of these are really high though, off of our own personal experience. So because you said the price is still 2.6K, I'm very surprised it is. Is that a lagging? How much is that, like a lagging indicator? Is that for October?
That's for October's numbers, for November's report.
Right.
According to rentals.ca, right? So the problem with TREB, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, the GTA report, is that it shows only quarterly. So the last one was Q3, which shows the end of September, right? So it's not up to date, absolutely. And you can see here that according to their stats, it's up. Oh, it's about 2,600 too. So yes, it's kind of accurate.
So it almost doesn't really make sense why it's still expensive at this point, though. Like, is that being?
Well, if you look at the number of listed in Q3 of the Tribe rental report, they don't look at it monthly because it's too granular, I think, right? So if you look at the quarterly reports from year over year, you're looking at a 22% increase in listings,
right?
In rental listings,
right?
Apartment rental listings. Right.
And that's what you're saying, why the prices are going down then.
That's my feeling. That's my gut feeling. So just for context, 21,000 apartments were listed in Q3 2023. That's this quarter. And I think that's July to end of September.
Yeah.
And then Q3 2022 last year. So year over year increases. So the reason why year over year is important is because it eliminates any seasonality, or it's ought to eliminate any seasonality issues, right? And that was at 17,000, so it went up by 22%,
right,
for listings.
Okay.
Now that being said, we also got an injection of 1 million people in Canada, or 1.1 million people in Canada, and let's call it 500,000, including non-permanent residents to Toronto or Ontario. Let's call it another, I don't know, 300,000 people into Toronto, right? So an extra 4,000 units for apartment units, that is, in the GTA is not that bad in the grand scheme of things. It's still not a lot. It's still not enough. And that's why it's still very competitive to be a tenant. That's why prices aren't coming down.
Yeah.
But I do feel that the activity has slowed down, partially because the cost of moving is too much and that there's more options right now.
Do you think, outside of supply and demand, do you think there's a little bit of like unrest for some people? Like, maybe they're just tired of seeing the prices super high up. Maybe their salaries are not going up enough. So then they're like, I don't want to move. It's
always been like this, man.
Yeah.
As you know, like all the tenants here, they hate us.
Yeah.
They hate landlords.
Yeah.
For sure. And like anytime you it's like the most controversial topic ever. Go on Reddit, go on Facebook, go on whatever. You'll find that tenants hate landlords, and landlords, well, they don't hate tenants, but tenants mostly hate landlords. I think we should,
If we make a search right now, if we put it on Google, why do tenants? Oh, it's gonna be straight like.
I just think they don't understand it, really. To be honest, like I don't think tenants understand that without landlords, the rental prices would be even higher because the supply wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Right. And then they say, oh yeah, well that means I could buy something. Well, real estate prices have gone down by 15 to 20%. How much more of a discount do you want? Do you want to drop down to like 70% discount?
Yeah.
Like how much of our economy would die because of that, right? Like it's so reliant on housing. I'm not talking about just real estate like agents or anything like that, or mortgage brokers. I'm talking about construction. I'm talking about tax revenues, even for the city. Like who's going to pay all that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough thing. Like I know for me, because I'm representing the tenants out there. So I'm over here, of course, rooting for a way to get more affordable rent. But I understand
that is an issue.
The other side of it, the double-edged sword of being like, I understand it on the landlord point of view, working in thriving property management and just seeing like what goes on.
No, I get it. Like, no one wants to pay rent. Don't get me wrong. No one. But like someone's got to pay that ticket. Someone. So it's not a free meal. Like I don't know how we're going to get that.
Yeah. So we figured out why rental prices are going down then, at least as far as we've seen in
it's just a theory. It's honestly a theory.
But with that theory being said, you've kind of gone through this like stage throughout November where a lot of people are contacting you being like, what do I do? Do I rent or do I sell? What is the answer to that? And why is that so big right now?
Well, it's big because the cost of carrying is so high.
Yeah.
Right? When things were cheaper to carry a mortgage, and like right now, actually, I own a property with my brother, and we're losing over $2,000 a month. We're losing, right? Cash flow negative. Yes, we're gaining some in principal, but ultimately we got to kick in $2,000 a month.
Wow,
that's a lot.
Wow,
right? In addition to everything else I'm paying, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting $3,500 for rental revenue for a 2-bedroom. And the cost is over $5,000, I think it was. Yeah. So over $2,000 we're paying. right now.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Raise that price to 5K? You can't
I
really
can't,
do that.
I
Yeah.
can't. The market rent is at 35. Well, actually, it's a little bit higher than that, but it's okay. It's not rent controlled. I could do that to the tenants, but fine. They're great tenants. So even if we raised it $100, like what's it? We're still kicking in $2,000 a month, right? $1,000 each. So, when you're faced with that decision, and I see the bank account drain to zero, I'm like, hey, I asked my brother for a top up, because like we got to both kick in. So we both kicked in, and here we are. So it's tough. It's tough for a lot of people, and I get it. And I just don't think that this will last forever. I can't give specific advice because it's very general.
Yeah.
Like, every situation is different, so it depends.
No, I see that. And I think that's what the people are looking for, though.
Yeah.
Because I see what you did with your decision. You guys decided to stick with it. I do see some other people out there, they can't stick with it. At what point would that be the best decision to sell it?
Well, I mean, if you're drowning, then you can't sell it, right? And you're going to be foreclosed.
Just accept the loss.
You have to, yeah.
Right.
Or you can talk to the lender first and see if there's any kind of payment plan or some sort of way to make the payments lower or something. There's got to be a way, right? They don't want you to default. They don't want to have to sell the property for you, and especially selling in a declining market too. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. But that being said, I don't think this is permanent. These interest rates aren't going to stay here forever. In fact, today is Friday.
Yeah.
One of the banks announced a small drop in the fixed rates. Small drop. Like I'm talking about 15 basis points to like 17 or 18 basis. Like what that means is basically 0.15%, which is not huge, but it does help a little bit. And the trend is that it is going to start coming down a bit more as well.
Right.
So I don't think these high interest rates will last forever. If you can weather the storm.
Yeah.
What you get Bitcoin people call it, what, HODL? Hold on for dear life.
Oh, yeah. When you basically, you just hold on.
Hold on for dear life if you can, right? And on top of that, I think that the rental prices, yes, it's declining right now because it's like you look outside, it's miserable, it's gray, it's cold.
Who likes
snowy.
moving in the winter?
No one wants to move. Everyone's thinking about just hunkering down at home.
Yeah.
If they have a safe home, which is great. But there's situations where you have to. So it's all the situational buyers and trade up tenants, I guess. But I think once the new year, and we see this every year, January 1st comes along. It's a new year, new you, new place.
New place, yeah.
New relationships, maybe, I don't know. So maybe like you move out and you move to a new place. And that, so I think that leasing activity will pick up in January and it'll get even higher again in the peak seasons of, spring to summer.
Sweet. Okay. So now we went through all the rental people. We went through our sellers. Now, what about the buyers? Like, is there anything advantageous for them now?
Yeah, it sucks, eh? It sucks to be a buyer because on one hand, you're rooting for prices to come down. And we said this a long time ago too. Yes, prices may come down. And back then, remember when the start of this?
Yeah.
Like we weren't sure if it was going to drop 5%, 9%, 10%. Who would have known it dropped 15 to 20%? Maybe even 25 in some situations, right? It kind of sucks. But the problem is, yes, prices are down. The cost of carrying is even higher than it was back then when prices were higher.
I know. This
Because
might even have to be a separate video because I was thinking about this. I'm like, going through school, you go through this one thing, basic economics.
What, supply and demand curve?
Supply and demand. And I think about it every day with the Toronto market. And I go like, we have this high supply. And then we have like, it's a buyer's market technically, like it looks like it, but then nobody's buying anything
because nobody can.
Yeah,
and not even that they don't want to. It's not even the want. Everybody wants to buy. It's just that people that want to buy.
Yeah,
it's just that they don't qualify because of the stress tests.
But also the people selling it don't want to sell it at a very low price, right?
So I think there's a lot of arguments back and forth about how long the seller's going to be able to hold out for. I don't think they'll be able to hold out forever. Like depending on if they keep interest rates higher for longer.
Yeah.
Then prices average, like they will drop, right? But again, the cost to borrow is not going to get any better. Your monthly payments are not going to get any better. You're not going to be able to qualify for as much. So if you're sitting on cash as a buyer and you've been waiting till now or waiting even longer, congratulations. That's a good move. Now's the bottom. Time the market, get in, right? But for everybody else that has to borrow, it's not any better.
Yeah.
So whether you bought when prices were higher, 15 to 20% higher, or at the peak, your carrying costs are probably lower than what they are today.
Right.
Sucks.
Yeah. Okay. So all the people that are trading, and I'm sure you're going to go through this in another video, or if you've already talked about it, the 6 Ds. So who are all those people again? The good side being
Well, it's not going to. You got to watch that video to actually understand
Okay.
what the primary motivators are of people that actually need to move.
Yeah.
But there's life situations at the end of the day. You just boil it down to that. Life situations.
yeah,
People need to move at the end of the day.
people need to move.
So those that don't have to won't. So that's why the volume of transactions have gone down to a third of what they were before at the very highest peak. So they're down to about 4,600 transactions for buying and selling in all housing types in all the GTA compared to the peak of 13,000. Now, it's not fair to compare an October market to like an April market, right? It's not fair because like the fall market it's kind of like near the tail end of, people are starting to think about holidays compared to spring when everything's just blooming again, right?
So it could just be seasonalities.
Definitely seasonality. But if you look at the past Octobers, this is one of the lowest Octobers we've seen for I don't know how long.
That's true.
I think it was like the quote was like 20 years or something like that. So, yeah, lowest amount of sales volume since the beginning of the pandemic, really. And before that, if you eliminate that, I think it was like a 20-year low.
Okay. Without making this all doom and gloom, how do we change this up? What's the good things about this?
From whose perspective, though?
So let's go. You know what? Let's recap everybody. Let's get the good news for everyone. Renters.
Okay, for tenants, well, right now you have a little more options. You have a little bit of breathing room if you need to make that move, if you want to upsize or downsize. There's a lot of options, and you have your chance to negotiate a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of a pause in activity.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too. Yeah, that's good news for the renters out there. Okay, the sellers.
The sellers, hold on for dear life if you can. If you can refinance something else to take money out just to carry you through, maybe that's a choice you want to do that. If you think it's going to fall even further, then maybe get ahead of that and sell it. If you're in deep financial trouble, you're going to be in deep financial trouble, maybe it is time to just sell it and get out of it. But I just feel that this is kind of near the bottom of where prices are going to be.
So that's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just if you can hold on because there are better days.
It's light in the tunnel is that I don't think interest rates will ever go back to 2%. Like ultimately real estate prices are very dependent on where interest rates are.
Yeah.
And I don't think it'll go back to 2% ever.
Right.
It may or may not. It might be going down to 4% versus the current 6 or 7%, depending on what you qualify for. And I think there's a lot of pressure in terms of demand of people coming into the country, of immigration, and even inflation for that matter. It just dilutes what like $1 million might seem like a lot today, and it is. But in 20 years now, if you talk on inflation, $1 million is as much. Right, I remember back in the day when I first started the career 18 years ago, that $1 million, like what? The average sales price was like $200,000 back then, right? So, I never thought it would go to this price.
Heck, 3 years ago, or last year with $1 million didn't seem like that much with the interest rate.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you can hold on, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. Prices will seem cheaper in the future. Prices will it doesn't always go up, but it most likely in the long run the trend will go up because of diluting of the currency from inflation, from the immigration factors that are coming in, and from the cost of borrowing won't stay like this high forever. It won't.
Yeah. Okay, and let's recap the buyers. What's so good about
if you're
them?
sitting on cash, go buy now or buy in the next few months. And I actually heard a really good tip. If you feel like the price is going to drop another 10%, 20%, then go offer 10 or 20% lower. And if you get it, great. You had your strike price at the lowest it can be ever.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people are going to say no to it. Like drop a lot of low balls out there, but a lot of people are going to say no. But you might just catch that one. That's all you need.
You have your supply. I always say like you got a dartboard, just keep throwing at it until you hit the bullseye.
There you go. So if you're a buyer out there, and depending on your motivation and how quickly and your urgency, get your money ready. If you need to borrow as a buyer, then I don't know. It's going to be a bit tough. The qualifications are tough. If you absolutely need to buy, depending on the situation, maybe partner with somebody, maybe get a loan from BOMAD, Bank of Mom and Dad, if you have that option, if you're lucky enough to have that. What's that?
Old reliable.
Nice. Yeah. So you have that option, or however you can get into the market. I think in the long run, I think you're going to be good if you can get in somehow. Or the other thing is you may not even have to buy in Toronto or Ontario, right? Like prices are really high here. What about buying in a different province or country altogether?
Yeah.
And just rent where you live and live where you rent. Is that how it works? Rent where you live and I don't know, whatever. Be an investor somewhere else. Yeah. Be an investor somewhere else, collect the rental income somewhere else. That might be a little more of an affordable market. And then continue to rent here if you want to stay in Toronto. At least you can own real estate somehow. Or even if you don't want to own real estate, like specifically, buy into a fund that owns real estate that you can get in and out of liquid, right? You know, the more liquidity you have, the lower the returns will be, because obviously there's a risk premium to staying in longer and being locked in longer. So you get a higher return for things that you can't pull your money out of quickly, right? So if you want that, there's REITs, like real estate investment trusts that are publicly traded. There's non-publicly traded real estate investment trusts, funds that you can buy into, that, you know, development funds, for example, that offer 15 to 25% returns potentially. Or, there's a lot of different private lend money out.
There's a lot of positive, good things that are going on right now. And I feel like a lot of news articles are just pushing out all the negative. So everybody just do your own research or talk to us. We're here all the time, honestly. And that concludes our podcast. Thanks for talking about this today. I feel like this was a big topic on my head for the past, like, all of November. So I really appreciate that.
Nice. And Movember. Is that Movember?
Movember.
Is that what you're doing?
I mean,
or just you?
No, it's just me. It's just naturally me.
Look, remember that everyone always needs a place to live, always. So that's why I believe in real estate in the long run as well too. And I don't know. It would be nice to have a little more liquidity, though. That's for sure.
I know. Well, thanks, guys. Just to end things off here, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like the podcast, so you share it with your friends, you follow our channel, and that's it.
Shoot us a message if you have any questions.
Shoot us a message. Let us know any questions, and we're more than happy to answer them. We have the mics in front of us, and we're ready to go. So,
all right, sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
You.
Add it up.
Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe. But more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.